Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is the Prince of FNAF, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing, and also be sure to hit that notification bell. That way, you'll indeed be notified for any awesome videos like this in the future. Now here's a bit of an interesting dilemma, as Spring Bonnie falls under a very interesting category. Is he an original character, or is he a legacy character? Because Five Nights at Freddy's already introduced Spring Bonnie in the form of Springtrap, who is just a withered version of Spring Bonnie. So, is Into the Pit Spring Bonnie a separate character simply due to minor changes physically, like the idea of having some kind of demonic creature living inside the animatronic suit and just the kind of weird proportions of the suit itself? Or should it be considered its own original character within fazbear Frights? Let me know in the comments below, but that's who we're talking about today. We're talking about Pit Spring Bonnie from Fazbear Frights number 1, Into the Pit. So let's get started. We follow Oswald, who is the main character of the story. Oswald lives in a dying town, which used to have a huge source of income because of the mill that used to run on the outskirts of town. However, when the mill closed down, a lot of people left and only few remained, this being Oswald and his family, and some of their close friends. Oswald's mother works full time at a hospital, and Oswald's dad works part time at a convenience store called the Snack Shack. With summer break coming up, Oswald wants to do all this crazy stuff, but his parents are too busy. So his parents say, well, why don't you just go to the library and read a couple of good books, maybe play on the computer, and then if you get hungry, we'll give you some money and you can go to the local pizzeria across the street, Jeff's Pizza, and order a pizza and a drink. And so Oswald begrudgingly, after having no other choice, decides, okay, yeah, I will humor you. Let's go to the library and read some books and play on the computer and do all that kind of stuff. And I can get some pizza. You know, he thinks this is a great idea at the end of the day. Of course, he originally was like, I don't really want to do that. But given that he has no other choice because his parents are so busy during the summer, he decides to do it anyway. And so the first time he goes to the library, he decides to read a book. It's actually the next book in a series of books that he's actually reading, and so he enjoys that. And then he goes to the local pizzeria, which is called Jeff's Pizza, which is an interesting idea that this actually used to be a original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location. So originally used to be a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, however it's under new management and the name is changed, and obviously all the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff is removed. So now it's called Jeff's Pizza, and it's owned by a very friendly old man, and so he wants to get this really fancy pizza with toppings and stuff, but his parents only gave him enough money to get a one slice of regular cheese pizza along with an orange soda. So he's not very impressed, but he still enjoys the pizza. And over the course of several weeks at this place, he becomes sort of a regular to the point where even Jeff decides, "Hey man, you want some pizza? I got some leftovers." And he's like, "Sure," because he's actually come to really enjoy the pizza here. And this is where things start to get creepy. He notices that there's an old ball pit. So, he's kind of bored one of the days where he's at the pizzeria, so he decides to just jump in the ball pit. And he's transported back in time. Yes, a time traveling ball pit to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Way, way back when. During the time where William Afton was supposedly in a Spring Bonnie suit killing people. So he becomes friends with this little boy, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff together. And he really enjoys going back in time to see this kid and to go to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and hang out. In fact, after he goes and spends a couple hours at the library every day, and then goes to the pizzeria, he goes into the ball pit and just goes back in time to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It's a very interesting concept, but he ends up meeting Spring Bonnie, or as he is more appropriately called, Pit Spring Bonnie, and he just is always in the background. And every time he sees Spring Bonnie, he looks a little bit closer, and he just looks creepy, as if he wants him to see something. So finally, he goes with the Spring Bonnie animatronic, and there's like an urgent need for Spring Bonnie to show him something. That's what he feels like. So Spring Bonnie opens the door to reveal this kind of shrine made up of a bunch of dead bodies sitting at a table with birthday hats and a birthday cake. Obviously, he's very disturbed by this, so he leaves the ball pit and tries to go back home. And as he's leaving the ball pit, he feels something tugging on his leg. Spring Bonnie has actually followed him from the ball pit back into modern times, and this is where things get really scary. Spring Bonnie actually becomes his father. And actually, the interesting concept with this is everybody believes Spring Bonnie to be Oswald's father. And everyone's all like, why are you so scared of him, man? That's just your dad. So obviously, everybody is just seeing Oswald's dad, and Oswald is just seeing Spring Bonnie. He's like, no, that is not my dad. And so he decides to find a way to get rid of Spring Bonnie, because now everybody is just thinking that, oh, he's just being crazy. He's running away from his dad. He thinks his dad's some kind of monster. And he is. He's literally an animatronic with a kind of weird monster living inside of it. So he decides to get rid of the Spring Bonnie animatronic. They go to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, or Jess as it's now called, and they fight, and there's a huge battle that takes place. Into the Pit Spring Bonnie is defeated. And the interesting thing about this is that Into the Pit Spring Bonnie has a kind of monster type creature inside of it. It has this kind of monster with sharp needle-like jaws, and there's this kind of fleshy creature that is inside of it with a long tongue and these kind of bloodshot, glossy eyes. But after defeating Spring Bonnie and getting it stuck in the net above the ball pit, it dies, and Oswald is able to get his father back, and everything's happy. But as he turns around to see the Spring Bonnie suit, it's just decayed and empty inside. Nothing is inside it. No monster, no demonic creature is inside the suit. It's simply just an empty suit. Pretty spooky stuff. Into the Pit Spring Bonnie is clearly a creation of Eleanor. If you've seen my other videos, you know what I'm talking about. Eleanor created most of the monsters, or even built some of the monsters in Fazbear Frights. So whether she built them or had influence over some of the monsters that kind of puppeteered them, she probably had influence with the Into the Pit Springtrap coming out and terrorizing Oswald, making everybody see his dad when it's just Into the Pit Springtrap just chilling. It's a very interesting concept. It's not made clear what that creature was that was inside the mascot, but it's still a really cool story, and I love that a lot of these stories really have that kind of mysterious aspect to them. They do a good job of explaining things, but then there's things that are just kind of eerie and left up to the imagination. But let me know what you guys think about my review and kind of explained video about Into the Pit Spring Bonnie. He was definitely a really creepy character, and was a great way to set up the kind of stories that you would see going into Fazbear Frights. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Do take care and have a great night.